Life jackets on the ship are kept on the boat deck on either side, port and starboard. Each life jacket has an automatic light that will activate in the water, as well as a whistle. Immersion suits, also known as survival suits, are kept in various lockers around the ship, such as this one on B deck. There's various life buoys that are located around the ship. This one here, as indicated by the IMO symbol, has a light, a buoyant light. So if you throw this life buoy over the water, it's weighted at the top here, so it'll end up sinking like that. And then when it becomes inverted like that, it causes the light to activate. In case of a man overboard, this weighted life buoy can be released by a bridge team member. The buoy is attached to a buoyant light and smoke canister that will be pulled out by the weighted buoy and will activate automatically when it hits the water. The buoy is released by pulling this pin. Both sides of the ship have two 20-person life rafts on each side, as well as a 6-person life raft up on the starboard bow. These life rafts can be manually released, or in the case of the ship sinking, a hydrostatic release will cause the life raft to float to the surface after the release reaches a certain depth. This is the 6-passenger life raft up on the starboard bow. Each side of the ship has a lifeboat. Each lifeboat is rated for 39 people. All right, let's take a look inside a lifeboat. So every crew member would take a seat and use these shoulder harnesses and seat belts to secure themselves to the boat. The boat captain would sit up here in this chair here, where he has access to the helm, engine controls, throttle, and the boat hook release. So by pulling on this lever here, you'll release the falls, which is that hook there, and allow the boat to drive away from the ship. As a safety precaution, this releasing gear is on a hydrostatic locking mechanism, so you can only pull this handle once the boat is actually in the water. There is a way to override it, where you can override the hydrostatic release, and you can pull really hard on this handle to lift the boat out of the falls, but that would only be done in an absolute emergency. Food and water rations are kept in this locker here. Water is changed by the 3rd officer, who's the safety officer, every 3 months. Here's an example of emergency ration. They kind of taste like I don't know, like a stale graham cracker, but each one of these has, each cracker has 200 calories, and there's 12 of them in here. So you'd have 2,400 calories worth of food in here. Both the forward and aft ends of the lifeboat have a hatchet. This is used to cut the sea painter, which is the line that ties to the bow of the lifeboat to the ship. Therefore, when the lifeboat is lowered into the water, it'll keep it alongside and prevent it from sliding back aft. The lifeboats have a manual bilge pump, which can be actuated by pumping right here. There's an emergency tiller here. So if you take this tiller handle, stick it in here, you can then manually steer in case the helm malfunctions. Lifeboats are lowered by releasing both the forward gripes as well as the aft gripes, pulling the release hook lever, ensuring that the battery charger is unplugged, pulling the brake pin, and finally releasing the brake with either this lever or from remotely inside by pulling this line from where the boat captain sits. A rescue boat is located on the port boat deck next to the port lifeboat. It would be used to recover a man overboard from the water. The rescue boat is lowered using the davit shown here. Safety equipment on the bridge includes, these are SCTs. They're essentially emergency VHF radios that are only used in emergency. These are SARTs, they're search and rescue radar transponders. They work off of the X-band radar, the 3 centimeter. So if you were in an emergency, you would want, and you're on a lifeboat or a life raft, you'd want to hold this up as high as you can and flip it on, and then it would send a signal to nearby ships on their X-band radar. And our third mate here is going to demonstrate that. So nearby ships would see those concentric circles, and when you're further away it'll show dotted lines leading up to that. And then one of the most important safety items we have is the EPIRB. That's what that looks like. So this works over the satellite. In an emergency, you would want to turn this on and it would send a signal to a satellite, which would then get alert a rescue coordination center on land. It would give them your position, it would give them your ship's name, and using all of that, they'd be able to come out and rescue you. This is the second EPIRB, which is located outside the bridge. It's on a hydrostatic release, so if the ship were to sink and nobody were to grab it in time and activate it, then when the ship sank, it would float free and it would turn on and activate our position to the rescue coordination center. We have pyrotechnics inside the lifeboats, and we also have them up here on the bridge. We have an assortment of handheld flares. So these you would just twist the caps off and they would ignite. You'd hold them up and wave them around. These are the parachute flares. They're designed so that when you fire them off, the flare will launch into the sky with a parachute attached to it, so it'll float down slowly. And this is a great way at nighttime to signal to nearby ships that you're in distress. These are called line throwing devices. They have a small rocket that allows you to throw a line about 250 meters away, which can be useful for rescuing somebody in the water or sending a line over to a nearby boat in distress. So that's the life-saving equipment on board the ship, and the third officer is responsible for inspecting and maintaining that equipment on a monthly basis.